absolutely just smashed him.
It was very, very one-sided. I felt like Dark was never really threatened at one point in the game. Min tried to go for some different prongs of aggression, which, don't get me wrong, Min was making some pretty good moves, but Dark held very nicely. And it was really cool because Min was doing all the comprehensive stuff, right? He was placing spine crawls at his third or his fourth, being very responsible, making sure to shut down any forms of harass. But in the end, Dark just kept making better moves. And Infestors are pretty good. Infestors are pretty good, sir. They're very good. I can't wait to have Infestors.
I think we're going to see Infestors in this game, if there isn't some huge all-in in the beginning stages.
But, well, let's go ahead and introduce our players once more, Andre. Starting in the top right, we have from Team Slayers, Dark, who I would say was the dark horse entering this qualifier compared to other people, but now has really just established himself in the past couple of qualifiers that he is one to be feared.
I'd be very happy to actually see Dark in the North American Star League Season 4. Actually, both of us agreed on that.
Yeah.
With his matches against Arthur, but I would say his ZVT, ZVZ, definitely much better than his ZVP. Doesn't mean that his ZVP is bad whatsoever.
No, and if he enters the tournament, there's lots of Protoss to test himself against. There's Puzzle, there's Alicia, MC, there's lots of really strong players that he can eventually test himself against. And that's kind of what NASL is about. It's not necessarily just you matching up against one opponent and then never being able to play them again. It's how you do in the span of time, how you're able to really test yourself. And that's kind of why it's really cool to have up-and-coming players, because they get more than one opportunity, Andre. It's not you lose once and you have to wait the next tournament. It's you get to see how players progress over time. And I'd love to see a player like Dark, but also a player like Min, the red Zerg in the bottom left, from Team Slayers. And Min's been one of these guys that's kind of like Sheth on Team Liquid, just a really solid player. One of those guys thrown out very early in GSTLs. In GSTL Season 2, he was doing a lot of those things, like starting off Slayers and really trying to give them early wins. And just solid overall, but you need a little bit more than solid if you want to take out Dark.
He hasn't really made too many solo performances. I think he did like Code A for a little bit. And in that, it felt like he didn't even have a chance. Who did he play against? I think it was MVP, and he got absolutely smashed. Of course, like, you're playing against MVP. So I almost feel like...
It's like, man, like, well, you're a good player, but you, like, matched up against Michael Jordan. Well, everyone loses to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, so it's not, like, even fair, man. It's like... Maybe Min is like the sickest Code S player, but you just happen to match up against MVP. You always
get like the first round exits for a long time. That feels like a lot of people get that curse. That's what everyone was saying. You know, just even for players like I know Beastie Cutie, who's playing an MLG Open bracket, like he matches up against like Sase first round of MLG, and Sase went up to go place 4th in that tournament. So it was just like something where it's just, oh man, unfortunate bracket losses. But you know, Min has faced off a lot. You know, he did lose to MVP pretty recently, but he's also matched up against a lot of other Koreans and things like the esports weekly matches and the Korean weeklies, and even the OSL qualifiers. He went pretty far, and it was one of those players where we're like, yeah, really, Min's doing well in OSL? Yeah, he's a Slayers guy. That's pretty good.
And you know, he has shown his skill here. I wouldn't count him out whatsoever, but we can already see a difference in builds. Look, this is exactly what I was talking about last game. You know, Entomb Valley, definitely a map where you have to go Zergling Baneling. This is a map where you can kind of rely on the big openness to keep you safe, and you can react accordingly. You can see an Evolution Chamber was chosen for Min first, whereas his opponent chose a Baneling's Nest. Baneling Nest, obviously the more standard, but Carapace upgrade, that is really, really important. That actually tells us that it is going to be some sort of pressure build in the early game stages, although it could be a stylistic thing. Of course, the +1 Carapace, as we saw last game, helps. Baneling doesn't actually kill a Zergling anymore, but still, I mean, it does incredible amounts of damage. It's just a very interesting choice of upgrade, in my opinion.
It's kind of cool that if you do end up going for a +1 Carapace, you go for aggressive. But I feel like that's really good defensively more than anything.
I would say so too.
After that the Baneling got off one hit, sure the Zerglings survived, but the drones just turned around and like whispered into the ear of the Zerglings and they died. It was just one of those things where it just seemed like, yeah, the Zerglings survived, but you want to give them the ability to survive longer than that.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how both players gear up for mid-game aggression, because it seems like there's not going to be too much activity. Min is poking around with a squadron of Zerglings up into the northern half of the map, but I don't think it should do any damage really, because he's got 2 Banelings and his Zerglings waiting at the bottom of the ramp, so Min should, any aggression should be thwarted.
I agree. And from here, it's just very standard play from both these players. You can see the Roach Warren is going down for each of them. Lair Tech on the way. A little bit faster at this point for Dark. Is it? Yeah, a little bit faster for Dark. Nope, just about the same time. Forget it.
Yeah, and in the end, layer timings are really key to spot for in ZVZ because you want to get a grasp of when they can upgrade, especially with infestor counts. And usually if you see the infestation pit, it means that you have a brief window if you want to attack or to match it, because if they have to get things like pathogen glands, and you saw how punishing it is to kind of not have that, especially when you watch Vi vs Scarlet. Ooh! Oh my god, Andre, we just saw a huge pack of Zerglings run into 1 Baneling. Oh man, that was really sexy if you were rooting for Dark, but painful if you were rooting for Mid.
And these Zerglings getting in here, just scouting out, seeing exactly what his opponent is capable of when he's going. But these are very standard lair timings, very standard, third base timings. I don't know why he's trying to be so aggressive with this early stage. As you can see, Min is trying to be a little bit aggressive in this bottom area, but Roaches are already up, and Roaches are very powerful, obviously. And we might actually see a big, there it is, 2 Banelings are going to just explode right there. +1 is not finished, but it doesn't really matter because +1 Carapace is already up from Min, so it enables him not to be 2-shotted on those Zerglings.
Yeah, Min's doing this very cautiously, trying to continue to feign aggression like he wants to force the 3rd cancel, but he's still sneaking in drones here and there. And a lot of Zergs, feel very apprehensive, especially when you don't have good map control. They're like, well, am I going to be able to protect that 3rd? Again, another series I was thinking about Stefano versus Violet, where Violet kept focusing aggression on the 3rd of Stefano, really trying to choke him out. But Min's doing this very, very nicely, I think. He's just, again, droning really hard, but still trying to make sure that Dark's never out of position.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the infestation pit has already started right here. And I like what Dark is actually doing, pushing out. Oh, actually, hold that thought. Maybe not. The Zerglings getting in here, doing a little bit of damage to the natural and to the main base.
Wow.
This is actually going to kill a lot here.
Trying to get the Queen, but the Queen does end up surviving, but he does pick off some drones. And in the end, Min's killed 13 drones this entire game thus far. Very nice, but he has to be very careful also for any potential counterattack, and Dark is angry.
Yeah.
He's sending out a lot of he's actually getting out infestors as well and droning behind it, so he's also going to poke but not really commit to a huge timing.
Yeah, one thing to note is that Roaches are very larva efficient. Obviously, they only cost 1, whereas Zerglings, you don't really get that much power. So there was a lot of larva commit to that last battle, so no matter what, I feel like Min, even though he has the economic advantage, he's sitting with a larva disadvantage. Current larva out on the field just favors Dark so much, and he's going to clear up everything over here, but probably going to just pull back. He's getting the core things right now for his economy, which are the gases, and from here, I think we're going to see infestors. Infestors probably pretty good. I don't know though. I think maybe something like Hydras are good, and Dark will go Hydras.
Maybe Hydra Infestor. That'd be a pretty sick.
That'd be you're a sicko.
Now. Something that I think is also really neat is that Dark prioritized his gases. In fact, he was down in the mineral count pretty significantly and still is in terms of the ratios if you compare the both the incomes. But at the same time, he focused so much on the gas intake that he's able to actually catch up because of it. And Dark really prioritized getting more infestors out quicker. He's got 6 infestors out right now. And he's going to catch up in the drones eventually, but he's going to scale back his production a little bit. And he's not in that bad position despite losing all these drones early on, so I like that. It was good aggression from Min, but overall, I really like how Dark was able to slowly crawl back in this game.
I do too. Now, don't forget, I mean, there were mass Zerglings in this early stage, so Min should be actually pulling back a little bit in that Roach count and saying, okay, I don't need so many Roaches. And he does have more Roaches than his opponent, but I was going to say, he's been making so many Zerglings in the early stage, he's been able to really focus on getting all of his gas into his infestors. That's really important. And Min going to do a little bit of aggression here? This seems really awkward to me. I don't think there is any potential timings. Look at this. Taking the 4th base, saying, please come at me, bro.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a large infestor count as well, your defensive ability is just so strong. And I think, just like you said, he really wants to bait Min into a huge attack. And Min's committed almost all of his army to pure Roaches and a few Zerglings for support. He doesn't have that many infestors, only has 3. But the roach count will be in the 50s, while, I mean, Dark only has a mid-20 count of roaches, but still, Infestors, if you just get fungals down, you can completely sway the battle in your favor.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to see probably an attack here. You know, you said it best. Infestors make great defense, man.
Yeah. They're game breakers.
Just the fact that you can fungal down any of the units and really get the better concave over your opponent, I think that's the most valuable thing that the Infestors add to it. Of course, the damage helps it quite substantially, but it comes down to the fact that you will always get the better concave, assuming that you get those fungals first. And there it is. You can see so many roaches in the back here just not doing anything, and the damage being done is pretty significant. Now beach balls are being thrown everywhere, but that concave, look at that concave for Dark. It's just so good. He will be able to clean up everything on the bottom, it looks like, and on the top. The Infested Terrans are now going to be taking the damage, and Min has to pull away. Out of that, let's look at the Infestor count, because that's all that matters. 11-2. All right, the game's won. Congratulations, Dark.
Well, it's not.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding.
One thing again, Dark's able to do is protect that 4th base, get gases number 7 and 8, prepare even more upgrades. Wow, I didn't even realize this. Dark did that with Hydra defense without Groove Spines, as Hydras are actually fighting with 5 range.
Wow.
And something that's also kind of small but pretty significant is that the defender's advantage was even larger for Dark because he spread creep out from his thirds. That his Hydras were able to reinforce really quickly and push the bottom map back. And that was really the crux of Min's attack. You know, he was really trying to force himself from the bottom half of the map and not necessarily from the ramp. And I think overall that's how he protected his Infestors so well. And look at this Roach Squadron trying to go for a counterattack but immediately gets stopped. Dark playing very well despite Min's good decisions for aggression.
Yep, and Min, at this point, he's just throwing away units.
Like, why is he being so aggressive
There's
at this
really
point?
no reason, right? Yes, he's maxed, but you do not have an Infestor count to actually confront anything. You know, Infested Terrans are free. They're going to have more potential DPS than you. There's no real timing where you're like, oh, with this army, I can beat my opponent, or with this army, I can actually win. No, just, yes, drop back. Get spine crawlers, rely on that, slow trades out with your roaches, and then replace it with Infestors. That's the way to actually do it.
Yes, just non-stop Infestors.
And when
you have 180 supply of Infestors, trade out your remainder 20 drones.
Yes.
So you can get a few more Infestors.
No. You keep the 20 drones and then make them, well, hold on. Big fungals and beach balls being thrown out.
Oh, good fungals from Min, though, and completely locked down the army, and a lot of the green army has been committed to this attack. There's not a lot of spine crawlers up yet for Min, but still a lot of DPS in these Infested Terrans, and they're moving forward, and they do have +2. And it's just a lot of DPS being dished out here. Min losing almost all of his army. And in the end, he does, Dark does keep his Infestor count, dropping the Infested Terrans, and then getting out of the battle. Good restraint and control. Min losing a lot of his ability to form any kind of counterattack, and that's kind of what Dark's trying to do, trade units. Min is down to just 1 Infestor at this point.
And, you know, I've seen this a ton of times inside of my, my ladder games. I think the correct decision at that point is to just give up that 4th base. Yes, you're going to lose a lot of economy, but remember, those Infested Terrans, the count isn't going to be nearly as high. Your opponent's losing a lot of fungal, so maybe later on in the stages, you know, if you still retain all of your Infestors, they just have Infested Terrans to throw down. You fungal those down, and all of a sudden they die really, really quickly. I think that would have been the better decision, but confronting there, Min just assumes the position, and he's really, really far behind because of that. Fungals are going down on this army beautifully, and it's Roach Hydra Infestor against Roach. That's basically it, yeah.
Roaches, basically, because he only has 1 Infestor and no other forms of attacking units. And Min going to try to go for another run-by, but Dark's just completely prepared. The only thing is he doesn't have detection yet for some of the bird roaches, but Dark's already on that. And Min's, again, this is kind of pressure that many Zergs crumble under. This is not because Min is playing horribly. This is the kind of stuff you want to do. This is the stuff that really pulls Zerg attention away. They're losing drones here and there. Maybe they even don't pay attention, lose tech building because of how much roaches you're able to sneak in. But Dark's paying attention to most of it. In fact, yes, he spots even the burrowed roaches at his 3rd and his main. Very well done.
Let's look at the Infestor count now. 15-5. Pretty good for Dark. And he is maxed yet again, looking to actually push forward. and kind of just lean on his opponent.
I think Min's now starting to really catch wind of what he needs to do. He's getting a greater spire, but will even have time to really benefit from that choice of tech. A lot of Infested Terrans are dropping once again, and there's way more DPS in the green army than in the red army. But one thing that might come into play is the +1 carapace, especially with Infested Terran DPS coming out. Roaches have a little bit longer longevity in the battle, but oh man, there's just so much dark and not enough Min, and at the same time, Min is losing his top left expansion. So you won't even be able to get that economic advantage from extra gas. And things are looking very bleak for our red Zerg. He's falling more and more far behind. He will end up stabilizing, but still took heavy damage. Now down to 1 Infestor yet again. Dark just really keeping that Infestor count low. And I'm really surprised that Min's even able to keep 1 Infestor alive.
Yep. And it's a minute right now, so that means more Infested Terrans are out on the field. Since the last attack, and there's that surround on all those roaches. Poor roaches, going to be DPS down so fast to the might of those Infested Terrans. And as you said, I mean, the Infestor control from Dark is just way superior over his opponent Min. Although he's a very fantastic Zerg player, just not able to keep up because of always losing every single one of his Infestors. Even now, 4-3 to 19. I mean, there it is. GG, and Dark will advance yet again in this NASL Season 4 qualifier.
Very, very well done by Dark. And it was, again, I felt like Dark never felt threatened too much. Min tries to do very textbook aggression. You know, fake at the third, try to drone up and get advantage, force your opponent to kind of play too reactively, and then defend with an economic advantage. But Dark handled the aggression really well, kept trading Infestors, really targeting down the high priority units, and saving his own Infestors. Yes, sir. Just overall, very high level play from Dark.
Yeah, great mechanics, right? Just great fundamentals, and that gave him the game. So congratulations to him. He's going to move on. We're going to go into our next match, which is, oh, we didn't decide yet.
Yeah, we're going to get everything sorted out, but this is the round of 16, guys. It's a best of 3 all the way until the best of 5 finals. We'll find out what happens next after a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. More action from NSQ number 3 right after a quick break.
See you back.